Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about SOAP notes. So this is one of the most essential tools that you're going to use as a recreational therapist or any other discipline to document client progress and communicate with the healthcare team. This is a form of documentation that is used across the board by a lot of different disciplines in the rehabilitation fields. So first of all, looking at what a SOAP note is, it stands for Subjective, Objective, Assessment, and Plan. It's going to allow us to record client information in a clear, standardized way so that any professional reading the note knows exactly what's going on, what's being done with a certain patient or participant, and what is planned next. So that's where, the subjective areas where we're going to capture the client's perspective. We're going to record measurable, observable facts, and that is our objective portion. We're going to provide a professional interpretation, that's the assessment, and then we outline next steps for the treatment, and then that's going to be our planning portion. So really, we can think of this as telling a concise, medically relevant story to the client's session. So it's going to allow us to kind of clearly and concisely talk about what we talked about and what things that we achieved throughout working with that particular person. So first, we're going to touch on the subjective aspect of the SOAP note. So this is going to be information the client shares or what others report that cannot be measured directly by you. So this might include some quotes from the client, the family or caregiver statements, descriptions of feelings or symptoms or personal concerns. Some examples are listed below. So, for example, patient stated, "I want to stay in my room, leave me alone." Patient expressed improving decision-making skills by stating, "I feel like I am making better decisions." There's different ways to kind of look at that and measure that. Using direct quotes whenever possible is important when you're looking at this part of the SOAP note, and avoiding assumptions. So you're only going to record what's reported by the patient. So we can't assume certain things about a patient when we're working with them. So some common feedback for the subjective portion. So don't rephrase what the client says into your own words. Document what is stated. So again, it's really important to use those particular quotes. Avoid including your interpretations. So save those for the assessment. That's when you're going to be able to shine and kind of assess if their goals are being accomplished, and keep it concise and relevant to the session goals. So moving on to our O, the objective section of the SOAP note. So this is, again, what you observe. So you're going to inspect and diagnostic values. Assessment and data collected are going to be tests and not results. And you're going to want to put in just the facts. So we're not going to put in our own interpretation of the results in this section. So again, these are facts and observations that you can measure or see or hear during the session. These things are included and not limited to attendance and participation, physical observations, etc. Some examples are listed below. So for example, a patient attended group for 45 minutes, participated in 3 out of 5 activities, and maintained eye contact for 60% of interactions. And again, an objective needs to be measurable. So they have those different components: 45 minutes, 60% of interactions, etc. So that is our objective section. Some common feedback for objective notes. You're going to want to keep it factual and quantifiable, avoiding opinions. You're also going to want to use professional and clinical language and record what you observed directly, not what you assumed happening. So as you all can see, there's a little bit of a theme here. No assumptions, everything, just the facts, what you're seeing. So again, here's some common feedback. Patient attended recreational therapy session on 2/19/21 at 2 p.m. for 30 minutes. Patient was unable to maintain focus during session. Patient stated that he had not slept in 2 weeks. If you know the actual quote, you can obviously write that in this section as well. So So just some more examples for common feedback. All right, moving on to our A, so assessment. So with assessment, this is your professional interpretation of the subjective and objective information. So here's where you're going to connect between what you reported and what you observed. So for example, a patient can maintain concentration on a task with minimal prompting needed by the recreational therapist. Patient needs support in dealing with scheduling appointments and taking responsibility, being on time to group as evidenced by persistent tardiness. So that's an example. So again, your interpretation is going to be based on the S and the O of the SOAP portion of the note. This is really when it's your time to put in your own professional opinion on what is happening with that particular patient. So common feedback, what did you gather again from the subjective and objective S and O sections? There should just be one assessment, and we are not including facts, moving the facts over to the O section. So again, something to keep in mind. Be specific and describe both strengths and needs is also another important thing to keep in mind here. So here are some more examples of some common feedback. So avoid words like seems or appears. You're going to use person first language and avoid words like suffers. Patient shows signs of depression as evidenced by his flat affects and minimal interest in the program. Certain words like that. And then finally our P, the plan. So the plan is really, what are you going to do now that you have these observations, results, and assessment? So what are you going to do? So example, schedule a one-on-one session to reassess concentration skills at the end of the week of week 2, 9-12 of life planning program. Patient will continue to attend life planning program 2 times a week to work on concentration skills for the last 2 months. And then you're going to complete therapeutic recreation plan goal number 1, objective 1. You're going to want to, again, put those frequency and duration of the interventions. You're going to want to have the plans of reassessment and the referrals or consultations. So that is this section. Common feedback relating to our P planning session, you're going to want to be specific. Once again, like our objectives, when, how long, how often. We're not just going to say session, be specific with your session. If it's an art session or a life skill session or what have you. Patient will meet with therapists 2 times a week for 30 minutes, treatment sessions for 3 weeks. Pretend like you're going to be gone for a week and someone else is going to need to meet with the client. What would they need to know? So these, again, should be super specific. Again, so yeah, say you're out, someone should be able to pick up your plan and say exactly what I need to do on this day and this time of this patient. Say, oh, I'm working with somebody who has a brain injury. I'm going to pick it up and say, okay, I need to go and do this memory game, and again, document all of that. So those are important things to keep in mind. So this is just showing us some of the formatting and what your note is going to look like. So as you can see, it's a pretty short and concise document. Don't put extra space between sections, just kind of write it here. You can kind of take a screenshot maybe just so you have that for the future of what your SOAP note should look like. So you can kind of look at that there. And again, you can rewind or pause this at any time. And then I left you a link on Play Therapy to look at, so you can go ahead and click that link. While you're watching that video, just think about things like what could have been included in each section of a SOAP note from this section. How would you translate what you see and hear into clinical documentation? So just some questions to think about. If you have any questions and or comments, feel free to drop them in the discussion board for this week. So just to kind of wrap up what we talked about, SOAP notes are a way of telling the client's progress story clearly and professionally. And definitely with practice, you'll be able to write them quickly and accurately in a way that supports both your client's care and your professional credibility. So again, this is something that takes practice, like any aspect of documentation or assessment, but if you are working in a facility that uses SOAP notes on a regular basis, you will definitely get super proficient at using them on a regular basis. So I hope that this was helpful for everybody. Thanks for taking the time to listen in, and as always, I'm here if you have any questions, comments, concerns, and I look forward to talking with you all again soon. Have a great afternoon. Bye.